Living off-grid is something that I always kind of longed for because I've always wanted to do things for myself, be responsible for what I do. So it was kind of a natural thing to do. But it was also, I realized not very long ago that it also had to do with a Walt Disney movie that I saw when I was a kid, which was the Swiss family Robinson, who are shipwrecked on an island somewhere, and they build a big house in a tree and everything. And a lot of the things that you'll see around here, even subconsciously, come from that I didn't even realize. The house I was dreaming in my head had to have lots of plants. I've always liked keeping house plants, but food plants. And so I was, drawing sketches of houses with big south-facing windows, almost like living in a greenhouse. And that kept on going for years and years and years, and I was reading everything I could get my hands on. And being underground to be protected from the elements, basically mostly the wind and the cold, was something that caught my eye. So when I was really ready to start building, I was designing a house that was already the same thing as Michael Reynolds was doing. And I didn't know it. And I started searching to see if you could live in a greenhouse, and I found what he was doing. And I was so glad because actually he was building a house with tires filled with sand instead of building concrete walls. And concrete is expensive and it's not very durable. It's not something that is nice to build with. So using recycling materials and stuff like that. So for me it was like, yes, I can actually live like that, and somebody's already doing it, and he's showing me a way to do it even cheaper than I thought I could. So I was really like, okay, that's what I'm doing. An Earthship, and the way Michael Reynolds saw it, he was looking for a way to build a house that would be, Earthship means that it's a house that is kind of self-sufficient, and he figured out 6 things that had to be designed into the house so that you would be self-sustainable. Your power had to come from either solar or wind. You collect rainwater. Black water has to be processed on site. You produce your own food. So there's a lot. It was all stuff like that that make it an Earthship. We did not do it exactly like he designed it originally, but the recycling of materials, the actual being off-grid was part of it, and so we kind of used the same principles. Since we have to use some kind of additional heating, the best way in our context was to use wood. So we built a rocket mass heater, which is the most efficient combustion for wood. It burns very little wood for the power that you get out of it. It doesn't pollute much. You can self-build it, which means it's cheap again, which is always nice. And on top of it, we use it as a cook stove. Okay. So that's a permaculture principle. You try and design things that will serve many purposes, and all your needs have to be supplied by many things so that if one runs out, you have something else as a backup. That's the way we kind of thought the whole thing out as much as we could. What happened is that when we started building, we went on the internet and talked about what we were doing to get people who were interested in that aware that we were doing that, and if people wanted to come and see and help and stuff, they could reach us. And it's worked out way more than we anticipated, and we had lots of people who come over, and it kept on growing and growing. And suddenly we didn't have anything to build anymore, but people still wanted to come and learn how we were doing stuff, so we started teaching workshops. We've been doing it for 5-6 years now. We'll probably keep on doing weekend workshops, and we do visits all the time and stuff like that. So yeah, it's part of sharing and creating abundance. One of the things that we thought about when we decided to build the house was how much power we were going to use and what the power was going to be used for. And I didn't want to depend on anything that I could not supply. So heat from wood is fine because we live in the woods and there's always dead trees. It's not going to be a problem. We have solar power because in a wood like that you can't have wind power very easily. So we went solar, but there's nothing inside the house that works on solar that we cannot live without. So we use it only for some lighting, communications like the internet. I use it to do a wash or to do vacuuming or something like that, and we use it for power tools, but only when we have enough. We don't have any ventilation, pumps, we don't even have a fridge. So if all came to nothing, we could still live here. One thing that we had not planned for, and we were very lucky when we bought the land, is to find that there's a few springs. And we situated the house so that one is a couple hundred feet above the house, and it just flows by gravity into a cistern because there's not much water coming out of the spring, but it's enough to fill a 1,000-liter cistern, and then that provides enough pressure to just supply the house. So there's really no pump, not even any filters or anything. We just have spring water in the bathtub and on tap. For the hot water right now, because we can have it, we have a propane on-demand heater. We use about 200 pounds of propane per year. Refrigeration is something that came along not very long ago, actually. And we had the possibility of getting ice made very easily at our neighbor's place. So that's the way we've been doing it for years, for the last 11 years. But in the last couple of years, we've decided that we want to be self-sufficient there too. So what we do is we put water in jugs, recycled plastic jugs, whatever, and we freeze them during the winter, like when it gets really, really cold in January, let's say. And so we have a big rack full of water bottles. So when the water gets really, really solid, you can put them all inside the root cellar, and we just stockpile them in sawdust and stuff. And now we're refining the process. So far we can last until about mid-July, and then we go back to our own old way of getting ice from the neighbors. The idea when we started this whole project was to be self-sustainable, so we were aiming to grow our food and whatever else we needed. But obviously we're not there yet, and it's a lot of work, especially if you're not on agricultural land, which it is here. It's forested, it's very rocky. We're getting some of our food done here, but not most of it. And you need people also, because just two-person to work all this is a bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
So we're aiming to find partners to come and join us too.